Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking about episode 7 of season 1 of Arrow called Muse of Fire. And this is the episode where we are introduced to the Arrow universe's version of Huntress. Huntress is not somebody really strongly associated with the Green Arrow mythos. If you're familiar with the comics, she's mostly a Batman character, but she's somebody who does make sense in this universe. It's even been said by the show's creators that basically they're imagining the world of Arrow as being the early DC universe, but without superpowers. Now, maybe we'll see some superpowers or maybe some supernatural elements later on in the series. I'd certainly like to see that, so long as they keep it low key. But for now, let's deal with what we got to deal with. And overall, though, despite the rather questionable name of this episode, I don't know. I think they could have come up with something better. This was still a pretty solid one. So, got my notes. I got something to drink. So let's get right into this. Okay. Now, the whole thing kicks off with, of course, the mob dude getting assassinated and Oliver's mom getting winged. Now, I have to object to the fact that the term "leaving her alone in the street" was brought up. Now, look, we all know that's not what happened, okay? There were some security guys from that building, who rushed over there immediately. And, yeah. I presume that security guys probably have at least some basic first aid knowledge. So, I mean, granted, it is kind of clarified later on that nobody really thinks that Oliver just sort of left her laying in a gutter with her blood pouring down a storm drain or anything like that. But still, it's just the way that was phrased, it just seemed really ridiculous. Now, the scene with Oliver and Thea at the hospital I thought was quite interesting. Now, my main problem here is that it's once again showing us that Thea really, really, really does not understand just what Oliver went through on that island. I mean, of course, she doesn't know about Deathstroke and all this other stuff. But, it just seems to me that Thea thinks that Oliver's biggest problem during that time on that island was being lonely and cold. This is a guy who should be suffering from massive post-traumatic stress disorder and God only knows what. And Thea's just she just does not get how mentally messed up Oliver has to be inside. Now his mom has caught on. At the end of the day, for most people, our mothers know us better than we know ourselves. At least, I mean, I even admit that it's true when it comes to me and my mom sometimes. So, yeah, Moira is really, really much more in tune with what's going on with Oliver. Now, the fact that she's never at once suggested, "Gee, son, maybe you should have a visit with a therapist or somebody like that," not so sure I'm keen on that, but, well, then again, Moira's got pretty good reason to want to keep anything involving that island away from anybody, including, well, Walter's in on the secret now to some degree, but yeah. That actually hadn't occurred to me until just now. I mean, if she's really that worried about what Oliver might have known about what went down on that island, actually her not pushing him to make any kind of overtures to a therapist or a counselor, that actually makes a lot of sense. I kind of wish that this maybe would be addressed in the show somehow, because I know a lot of people have out in the fan forums and stuff have sort of been like saying, shouldn't somebody get this guy a counselor or something? Okay, that's a plausible theory. Can't believe I didn't think of that before. All right, well, that's one of the reasons why I like to do these videos with you guys, is that when I'm talking about them, when I'm going through how I feel, things that I observe, sometimes I get new insights into it that I just missed. Putting things into words, it helps. Okay, let's see. As long as we're talking about Moira, let's continue on there. Of course, our new friend, our newly named friend, Mr. Merlin, comes and pays Moira a visit, and I gotta say, I love how John Barrowman is really playing this character. There's just such a quiet menace to him. And you can see that Moira is really genuinely scared all the hell of this guy, which seems an extremely major contrast to where she was just several episodes ago saying, you tried to kill my son, you do anything like that again, I'll freaking destroy you. Now, granted, she's just been shot, she's in a really her husband has, run off to the other side of the planet. She's got to emotionally and physically be in a really weak place right now. And of course, Mr. Merlin is all about jumping all over that. And Moira is really not in a position to do much of anything. And again, given credit to John Barrowman, just the way he keeps that really, really creepy, menacing side to him just barely contained. It's there enough that there is no doubt about that this is a really bad dude who will, cut your throat for a quarter if it suits his purposes. But the way he keeps the velvet glove on the iron fist, that's some real fine acting. And we'll talk more about him and Tommy right now. Okay, so this is honestly, in terms of character development, probably the most significant episode for Tommy yet. I mean, of course, we found out that the well-dressed man is Tommy's father, who I'm just going to continue to refer to as Mr. Merlin. Wait a minute, wasn't that a movie on Mystery Science Theater to 3000? No, wait, that was Merlin's Magical Shop of Mysteries, or some such thing like that. Okay, tangent over. And okay, so Mr. Merlin is Tommy's father. Now, this of course is gold. This is just absolute gold. And alright, now it is established in the comics that the character of Merlin, and that's the only name he has, is just Merlin, is basically evil Green Arrow. He's a guy, he's an assassin dude, runs around dressed all in black killing people with bows. I wouldn't say he's really Green Arrow's arch enemy. I don't think Green Arrow really has an arch enemy, but he's certainly one of his more dangerous foes. So, if Tommy is destined to become Oliver's enemy, here we see some stuff that really could be the first step on the road to that. Tommy does have, if Tommy's father were to die and Tommy were to blame Green Arrow for the whole situation, if he were to blame Oliver or whatever, well, with his family wealth, he would certainly have the resources to get the training and technical gear and all this other stuff to become a supervillain. And if he blames Arrow for the death of his father, then it would certainly make sense that he would choose, of all things, archery, to go and use that to strike back against the Green Arrow. Really, I mean, everything is really in place for Tommy to at some point become evil Oliver. And of course the fact that he's Oliver's best friend, he's Laurel's ex, or was involved with her at some point. Oh man, this is just comic book storytelling at its absolute most classic and wonderful. I mean, this is stuff wonderfully out of the Spider-Man mythos, where Spider-Man has this really horrible, unlucky habit of having people who he is emotionally close to becoming bad guys, or being one step away from bad guys, or being tied to bad guys in some way. This in fact reminds me a little bit of Batman. He has a character who's somewhat similar in that regard, the character of Tommy Elliot, who became Hush. I'm even reminded a little bit from the Superman comics of the character of Conduit, aka Kenny Braverman, who was, to put it in a nutshell, a supervillain whose hometown was Smallville. Now, okay, the idea that this. Okay, now granted, I'm really kind of running with something that we've only just now been introduced to the idea, but in terms of storytelling, it's just too perfect not to go down that road. Now, if they were to really throw a twist out for us out there, maybe they would kill Tommy and have Mr. Merlin become, Green Arrow's archenemy. But having a guy who's his dad's age or roughly in that neighborhood be his archenemy, a guy twice your age physically, even if he's in really good shape, and well, okay, I think you get what I'm going there. John Barrowman's obviously in really good shape for a fella his age, but doesn't change the fact that Steve Amell has quite a few years on him there in terms of youth. So, ditto, Mr. Merlin and Green Arrow. Then again, Captain Marvel's archenemy is Dr. Sivana, who is a elderly, physically frail, mad scientist. So maybe that possibility shouldn't be so easily discounted. Now, getting back to Tommy himself, his relationship with Laurel, again, this is actually progressing surprisingly well. I was a little wary when they were starting to go down this road, but the interplay with them over the takeout food, and then her that cute little conversation during their date, and her offering him comfort and encouragement at the end, that all did feel very genuine. These are people who, just before they became intimate, had been friends for quite a while, were still friends after the brief physical thing had passed, and now are just tenuously testing the waters of a genuine relationship. And whatever is going on there, the emotional connection did ring very true in both the terms of the storytelling, the writing, and the acting. Those were really, really just very well done scenes. As I said, this is really, in so many ways, the best episode for Tommy yet. I really, really have to have marked his character up one in my book. I like Tommy a lot more. Not that I disliked him before. It's just, I kind of feel like at this point, Tommy's a dude I'd hang out with if I had the opportunity, and not just because he's until prior, a billionaire dude. Here, it's like, you know what? Tommy's actually an alright guy. I'd invite him over to my house for a beer or something like that. Well, actually, I'd invite him over to my house for a tea. I'm not really a beer person. Alrighty, so let's see. Yes, this is something I've actually been looking forward to talking about for a little while. And this is one of our guest stars for this episode, and that is playing the character of Nick, the right-hand mobster guy, is... Hang on, I'm going to have to look at this guy's name in order to pronounce it properly. Tamo Peniket. I probably didn't say that quite right anyway, but I've actually been a fan of this guy since Battlestar Galactica, the modern incarnation, where he spent a couple of seasons playing the character of Hilo. And he did a really, really bang-up job on Hilo. I don't really think too much more needs to be said there. Really great actor. Of course, he's appeared in other stuff like Dollhouse. He's shown up on Smallville. And interestingly enough, his dad was actually the premier of the Yukon Territory for a while. That has absolutely nothing to do with his performance in this episode. It's just a fact of this about this particular actor that I find just extremely interesting. And for those of you who don't know, premier is basically the Canadian equivalent of a governor. At least that's my understanding of the Canadian government. I'm from the States, not Canada. Now, one thing I did like about his character, and it was, as I said, I'm pretty sure it was named Nick, is even despite him being a henchman, despite him being a right-hand guy, Nick's a smart dude. And at the end of the day, he's the one that figures out that Helena is Huntress. So even though he only had this one episode before he checked out, I like that they took the time to make this character someone formidable, someone who had a personality, who presented a genuine threat to the heroes. And, Tomo did absolutely great job. You know, he didn't have a huge amount of material to work with, didn't have a huge amount of screen time, but he definitely really worked every moment that he had. Again, points to the writers, to the director, to the actors. They really, really brought a really good performance from. Let's call him a one-shot villain. I think Nick's earned that distinction. And you know, I also got to say, at the end of it, just watching him bully that poor restaurant guy and his wife, you know, that really, really made me just hate Nick and wanted to see him get what he deserved. Uh, Kind of made me reminded me a little bit of the guys you see on Dexter. Not that who end up as Dexter's victims most of the time. You know, they always take a little bit of time to establish who they are and what they've done and why it is that they deserve Dexter's brand of justice, or at least to be victims of Dexter. And Nick's a guy who would fit in perfectly on good old Dexter's table. Oh man, now I want to go and read a Dexter Arrow crossover. Actually, no, I don't. I've essentially gave up on fanfic a long time ago. Continuous source of disappointment. Okay, so blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay. Well, of course, we can't have an episode like this without somebody saying we all have our secrets. And even though that's one of the biggest cliches in the book, can't deny it's true. You know, Tommy's dad has his secrets. Thea has a secret. I mean, not that Oliver doesn't know about her taking drugs and all this other stuff, but Moira most certainly has secrets. Oliver has secrets. Dig has secrets. Actually, it's all basically well, actually, no. Even Walter has secrets. So yeah, I mean, as near as I can tell, the only person who doesn't really, people who don't really seem to have secrets going on right now, are Tommy and Laurel. And yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. Well, actually, no. Laurel does have secrets. She did illegally cooperate with a vigilante. So yeah, I guess Tommy comes out of this the golden boy, you know, the guy with the halo. I mean, he's actually been seriously upfront and completely honest with Oliver about his relationship with Laurel. He's, you know, tried to be a good friend, very big on the bro code. Yeah, give Tommy the halo for so far. All right, so let me see here. Yeah. So coming to the character of Huntress Helena, we're introduced to her here, as I've said, and you know, it's not a bad introduction. It gets the job done. I do think though that this was maybe a slightly weaker aspect of the story. I think this is just the writers really kind of needing a little time to get a handle on everything. I mean, look at the way the show started in the first 3 episodes and where we are now. The story and the acting and the writing has all tightened up significantly. And this is just the nature of the beast on episodic television. It always, like I said, it just always takes everybody time to get used to things and to, you know, really figure out what's what, find their balance. But first of all, one of the things that I noticed about Huntress, and we'll get to some more in just a minute, is it's said by the police that the way she handles guns indicates that she's an amateur with them. And okay, her wounding Moira, it certainly does make that seem a little bit more plausible. On the other hand, Huntress is extremely capable in martial arts. So it seems very strange to me that she would spend all of this time, you know, becoming such a master of martial arts and, you know, not spending a little bit of time down at the firing range learning how to hit the broadside of a barn. I mean, look, my uncle taught me how to shoot when I was 16. I'm not a very good shot. The thing is, though, I haven't fired a gun since I was in high school. You know, plugging targets in my uncle's backyard when I visited him on vacation. So if you were to put a gun in my hand today, I'd be a lousy shot. But if I were to actually, be ready to go out there and declare war on the mafia and was going to use a gun as my weapon of choice, I'd practice first. So, yeah, that seems like basically a kind of an inexcusable lapse in logic right there on well, I'm going to have to lay this on both Helena and the writers. Now, one thing that I did notice, and this might be just a very subtle thing, it might be a coincidence, I don't know. It was that the Huntress, Helena's fiance, was named Stanton. Now, one of the artists that created the Helena Bertinelli version of Huntress was named Staten. Okay, that's I'm thinking that's probably a little bit of a shout out. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the character of Huntress, the DC universe loves its alternate realities. So the simple version is that there are basically two versions of Huntress. One is Helena Wayne, who is the character that we saw, if you remember the show Birds of Prey from several years ago. And she's basically a future version. She's basically Batman and Catwoman's daughter from the future. That's the simplest way to put it. Helena Bertinelli is of course, the second version, and she is essentially what we're seeing here on the show. Daughter of a mobster who likes to fight the mob. And frankly, that's the version of the character that I grew up with, reading in like Batman and Nightwing comics. Robin too, she popped up there a few times. I always loved the interplay between Huntress and Robin. That was always really cool stuff. And this is, of course, the version that joined the Justice League in the comics under the pen of Grant Morrison, and the version that was used on the Justice League cartoon from several years ago. So, I feel that I'm pretty familiar with this character, and overall, I'm pretty pleased with what we've seen of her so far. I sort of miss the classic Huntress costume, but I have the feeling that, well, actually, no, I've seen the picture of her kind of decked out in something besides the biker helmet, and given the way that costumes are handled here in the Arrow universe, I'm all right with it. Now, can't talk. The relationship between her and Oliver. Again, I think this is somewhat uneven. And again, I just attribute to the writers still kind of getting the hang of the character. But I do like that they do make the parallels between them pretty clear. We do see why it is that Helena and Oliver come to the realization that, hey, this other person genuinely understands where I am emotionally right now. They understand my pain. And, of course, given how isolated these two people must feel, given all that they're dealing with, it's no wonder that they'd be drawn to each other. The main place where this all breaks down, though, is when, after they kill the bad guys at the warehouse, and Oliver's like, oh my god, I can't believe you did that. And she's like, what? We're basically the same people. And he's like, no, this is totally different. It's like, bullshit, Oliver. She's right. You two are really, really basically exactly the same. Now granted, there are some slight differences in your motivations and all this other stuff, and the fact that you've got Dig around to essentially kind of be the angel on your shoulder is points in your favor. But at worst, Helena is basically where you were in episode 1, and apart from being slightly less murderous towards guys who are basically just henchmen, or even worse, possibly just innocent security personnel doing their jobs. Yeah, you insisting that there's a massive difference between the two of you is completely and utterly bogus. Now, I'm sure that we're going to be seeing this elaborated on quite a bit during subsequent episodes, but yeah, it's just actually hysterical in a way how hard Oliver is trying to deny that they're virtually the same people. It just really borders on ridiculous. Okay. Uh, there's some other stuff going on. Walter comes back. I'm glad to see him back. I think he's a character who adds a surprising amount to the show. As I've said, I've really been surprised by how much I've grown to like Walter. How much I think he's a solid addition. He's a really solid supporting character, and I was really from the get go kind of prepared to just write him off. And I'm glad the show proved me wrong on Walter. Now, this brings me to another complaint that I have about this episode, and this show is just completely and utterly wasting Kelly Hu, and I hate that. I've seen her. I mean, given her performances voice work wise on Young Justice, I know this lady can act. And China White, literally, I have more fingers on my hand than China White had lines in this episode. And seriously, it's just a complete waste. And, Helena's father seems dumb for deciding, oh, it's the Triads who are doing this, when it's known that there is at least one vigilante running around in the city. Now, granted, Arrow is known to use arrows, not guns, but seriously, dude, you're a gangster, and the Triads are the only enemy you have. Really? You just have the one? Okay, that's stupid. That really is just stupid. So I don't think that needs to be elaborated on any further. Now, oh yeah, he's also basically kicking off a mob war, which is completely unnecessary. But hey, it opens up the door for Kelly Hu to beat China White some more, so I'm all right with that. Now, is there anything else I want to talk about? Ah, yes. I almost forgot. We need to have a little talk about Quentin Lance. His interaction with Oliver this episode, I wasn't very impressed by that scene. Oliver says to him at one point, like, "Oh, is your warning me not to date Helena? Your way of making up for arresting me and charging me with being the vigilante?" And Quentin is like, well, if it is, we're even now. So let me see, Quentin. Your idea of accusing a man of crimes that could send him to prison for the rest of his life is to warn him not to date the daughter of a mobster. Could you have at least thrown in a warning to Oliver to not eat anything he finds under the sink that has the yucky face sticker on it? Or, tell him to, always wear a mask when he's spray painting stuff in the garage, or, not to run with scissors. I mean, seriously, Quentin, that's pathetic on so many levels. I don't even know where to start. Quentin. Dude, I want to like you, but yeah, you make it hard. Oh, also cool thing that I noticed. One, they brought Dr. Land back. That's the doctor, the Asian fella. And once again, we see Quentin giving the same lab tech guy a hard time. I like these little pieces of continuity, these little bits of consistency. Now, if only they would give the lab tech guy a name. That'd be cool. I'm going to give him a name. His name's Greg, like the dude from CSI. From now on, until he gets a name, we're calling the lab tech guy Greg. And with that, folks, we're going to wrap it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.